Good evening, everybody. My name is Stephanie Carroll, and I'm the Directing Attorney of the Consumer Rights and Economic Justice team here at Public Counsel. This series of webinars is brought to you by a collaborative of legal services organisations, including housing and economic rights advocates, Tzedek, East LA Community Corporation, the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles, National Housing Law Project, Neighborhood Legal Services of LA, and Public Counsel.
You might want to change the slide.
Tonight is the fourth webinar in our Homeowner series for wildfire survivors, focused on home improvement contractors and financing. This session is being recorded in English and Spanish and will be made available on our website and those of our partners. We are committed to language justice and accessibility, and we're constantly trying to improve our practices. Please bear with us if there are any technical glitches or delays. Please let us know if you have other language or access needs. When we're sharing screens, you will see the slides and the presenter side by side. You can use the white tab in the middle of the screen as a slider to shift the size of the screen share or the speakers. After the presentation, we'll do our best to answer any of your questions. Please note, this is a Know Your Rights presentation. It is not intended to be specific legal advice. If you have a legal problem, you should consult with an attorney separately. Our guest speaker tonight is Audrey Powers Thornton. Audrey is a senior attorney at Housing and Economic Rights Advocates, a non-profit legal services organisation that serves to low and moderate income consumers throughout the state of California. Audrey represents consumers targeted by home improvement schemes and assists borrowers with mortgage and foreclosure related issues. Before joining HERA, Audrey spent 36 years working as a civil litigator, specialising in real property law, partnership disputes, and financial elder abuse litigation. Thank you, Audrey, for being here to present to us tonight. Audrey, you're on mute.
Hi, thank you for coming, everybody. My name is Audrey Thornton, and I'm an attorney at Housing and Economic Rights Advocates.
If we can just switch the spotlight. If we can just switch the spotlight to PI Susan, please. Thank you.
Okay, next slide.
Hang on one moment. I think we need a spotlight. Oh, there we go. Okay. Thank you, Audrey. Go ahead.
All right. Today I'm going to cover some tips for entering into contracts for rebuilding your home and starting a home improvement project. I'm going to cover the common issues that I see come up with my clients and common red flags. I'm going to talk about contractors and how to vet them and your options when things go wrong. And financing, different types of financing to consider and some scams to look out for. And I will go over a few key legal rights and protections that you have. Okay, next slide.
Are you seeing the common issues and red flags slide, Audrey?
Right, I'm going to talk about common issues and red flags, starting with misrepresentations. So I work with clients who are often victims of fraud and misrepresentation after signing up with a contractor to repair something. One of the common issues I see are misrepresentations usually by the salesperson that has sold this home improvement or repair project to the homeowner. I see often that homeowners are lied to or misled about the costs and the benefits of the home improvement. Another issue is poor workmanship or abandonment. Sometimes the contractor's work is substandard. The equipment they've installed isn't functioning, or the contractor disappears before completing the project. Next slide. Another issue is fraudulent or predatory financing. This happens often when a salesman comes to your home, sells you on a repair or a home improvement, and signs you up for a loan or other financing without your consent or full knowledge of the terms. Next slide. So to start with, you can go to the Contractors State License Board website. All contractors have to be licensed with the Contractors State License Board. It's called the CSLB. And you can look up the contractor's license. You can file a complaint against the contractor, or you can read a good guide on how to hire a contractor at the website, which is www.cslb.ca.gov. Things that you should look for on the CSLB page that shows your contractor's license is the contractor licensed? Or is the license suspended? Was the salesperson licensed. You can find out if they have insurance. And you can also find out whether there are complaints filed against the contractor. And on the screen, you'll see we have a red arrow pointing to a highlighted complaint notice that you can find if there's a complaint against that contractor. And you'll see it on the CSLB website. So I'm going to go through a few of your key rights. You have a right to a 3-day cancellation period after signing a home improvement contract. And if you are 65 or older, you have 5 days to cancel a home improvement contract after signing it. You also have a right to receive a copy of your home improvement contract. And the contract has to have the contractor's name and license number, the total cost of the project with the finance charge, a description of the work they're going to do for you, a definite start and finish date, and a notice of your 3-day or 5-day right to cancel. You also have a right to get a copy of all agreements that you signed in the language in which the salesperson spoke to you. If they come to your house and they give you a sales pitch in Spanish, you have a right to a copy of the contract they want you to sign in Spanish. You also have a right to be told the total cost of the loan that you are taking out to finance this home improvement, including the finance charge. Finance charge is the interest that the loan is bearing and the total amount of interest that you will pay by the end of the loan. If you're installing solar panels, you have a right to something called a solar disclosure document, which lists the total costs for the solar energy systems. There is something called a solar consumer protection guide for customers of PG&E, Southern California Edison, or SDG&E. And on your screen, you'll see a picture of what it looks like, and you have a right to get that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about advising you and any homeowner to beware of a home solicitation where a salesperson comes to visit you at home or calls you to sell a home improvement or a repair of your house. The reasons why are the following. So I often see my clients get, as I said before, misrepresentations, often in the sales pitch of the salesperson who is selling you this home improvement. I see that homeowners are often lied to or misled about the costs and the benefits of a home improvement. There are often promises of savings on your utilities, or they will promise tax benefits. And even I see salespeople that will lie that the home improvement is free under a government program. So my advice is always wait, don't sign anything, and double check the facts. I'm going to talk a little bit about the financing and my advice on what to look out for on financing a home improvement. I see a lot of fraudulent and predatory financing. Homeowners often get signed up for a loan or other financing without their consent or without their full knowledge of the terms. The salesperson will often have the homeowner sign the financing agreement at the same time as the home improvement contract, without telling you who the lender is, without letting you read the terms of the loan, and without disclosing the finance charge. So one of the issues I see are caused by electronic signatures on a contract and a homeowner being rushed to sign. Home improvement contracts and financing agreements are frequently presented in electronic format on an iPad, tablet, your phone, the salesperson's phone. Often the homeowner thinks that they are signing a request for an estimate on how much it's going to cost, when in reality, they're signing a home improvement contract. One of the problems is that the electronic signature program, whether it's DocuSign or PandaDoc, will make it very hard to read the actual contract. As you probably have noticed, the program will often direct the signer to the next place in the contract to sign, and it will skip over the terms of the actual contract. If you are asked to sign or tap a contract on an electronic device, I advise you to ask for a hard copy of that contract to review before signing it. Because if you tap on the screen, this creates a legally binding signature that affects your legal rights and responsibilities. If, and they often do, if the salesperson asks you for an email address, it means that the contract will be sent to that email address for your signature. And it will be sent by an electronic signature program, such as DocuSign. And often, as soon as you open the email, it will ask you to sign the contract. remember that while you're being rushed to sign up for something and you're being shown something on a tablet, it's your responsibility to read all the terms and make sure the thing that you are signing actually reflects what you were promised. So if the written contract does not contain the terms that you expected, or you aren't sure, you can't read it, don't sign it. So if the salesperson is rushing you to sign the contract, this is usually a warning sign. My advice is don't sign or tap or agree to anything the day of the sales pitch. I understand that many of you are in a rush to get something repaired. The salesperson is probably going to take advantage of your anxiety and your worry about it. But first, talk to friends, family, or coworkers about the transaction you're about to enter into. I would look at sites that you trust that post ratings and reviews of contractors. I would get at least 3 different estimates, if you can, for that project. I would get references, ask around if somebody else has used this contractor. And as I said before, check their license and see if there's been complaints. Now, regarding the financing of this home improvement contract, this is what to look for in the financing agreement. You should be able to find the name of the lender that you're going to be sending payments to. You should see a description of the work that the financing is paying for. The name of the contractor. And look at the financing agreement and see if it says when the funds will be paid to the contractor, the funds that you are borrowing, and when the financing company is going to pay the contractor. Another term that you should be aware of in a financing agreement is something called an escalation clause. So if you're taking out a loan, you have a financing agreement that's going to span several years, and you're going to end up making monthly payments for this home improvement project. They often include an escalation clause, which increases your monthly payments after sometimes 12 or 18 or 24 months. This is often combined with an offer by the financing company that if you make a prepayment on your loan, reducing it to something called a target balance before the 18 months, then the payment will stay the same. But if you don't make that prepayment, then your monthly payment will increase. A prepayment is like a deposit, paying down the loan a little bit. You should also look for the financing agreement to show you the annual interest rate on the funds that you're borrowing. And as I mentioned, it should show the finance charge, which is the amount of interest that you will pay at the end of the loan. You will have paid by the end of the loan. And the financing agreement, just like the home improvement contract, must contain the mandatory written notice of your right to cancel. And that has to be in both the home improvement contract and in the financing contract. Okay, here are some warning signs of predatory or unfair financing. When you're not sure who the lender is or the names of the companies involved, because the salesperson hasn't mentioned that or hasn't decided to tell you. When you were told the work is free or that you'll receive a payment from the government, that's a warning sign. And you should always double check that. When you're not given a complete copy of the financing agreement to read before signing. So a warning sign is being rushed to sign, being rushed to tap the electronic device or the tablet. And finally, if after talking to the salesperson, the total cost that you're going to end up owing or the payment terms are unclear or vague, that's a warning sign that this is either predatory or unfair, and you should definitely look into it a little bit more. Well, those are my suggestions and the advice that I have from working with clients on this issue. Thanks, and we'll take any questions that you have.
Hi, everyone. This is Steph Carroll again. If folks want to share their questions in the chat or in the Q&A box, or if you would prefer to sign or speak your question, raise your hand and we can give you access. I have a question while we're waiting for other questions, Audrey, which is, are there limits on the money that contractors can take from you at the beginning of a project?
Yes. There's a limit on how much you're required to pay in advance. And you should definitely go over your contract because they can't demand that you pay the full amount up front before they've done any work. They can ask for a deposit.
And that deposit, if I'm right, I think it's the lower of $1,000 or 10% of the contract price. Is that right? I think.
Right, right.
So it's pretty low.
Well, that's also why it's good to look at the terms of the financing contract and see when they are going to be paying the funds, the full amount of the funds to the contractor, to make sure that they don't intend to pay the contractor before it's completed.
Okay, and I have a raised hand, so speaker, you can unmute. Johnny, if you can, let me know if you can. Johnny, I can't see that you're unmuted.
Yeah.
Okay,
we got
my
you.
question is the
Thank you.
interest that's paid on the loan tax deductible?
I can't answer that.
Yeah, the question was, is the interest that is paid on the loan tax deductible? And unfortunately, this isn't a tax seminar, so we can't answer that question.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Any other bits of advice, Audrey, that you have? Or I see Miss Amy Williams is in the house. So Amy, is there anything you would like to add? You can unmute Amy if you want, or type in the chat.
Nothing to add, just thanks and great job.
Thank you. All right. Well, all that's left is to thank you very much, Audrey, for that brilliant presentation.
Great. It was great to talk to everybody and let you know my concerns, advice, and suggestions. We do at HERA, we do have a lot of clients who are dealing with these issues who have been defrauded. And if you do have an issue like that or a complaint or a question, you can always reach out to us.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to say a big thank you to our language justice team. I have one question, which is, when is the next meeting? And we have a meeting tomorrow night in our consumer series about protecting yourself from scams. And I have another question. They're coming in now, Audrey. The next question is, what do you do if a contractor abandons your project?
Well, that happens a lot. And I have usually filed a complaint with the Contractor State License Board because that is something that they will investigate and they will help you with.
I have another question, which is, will the recording be available? Oh, sorry. While we switch interpreters. Hi. The other question is, will the recording be made available? It will. I will drop a link in the chat. I think I'm no longer sharing my screen. Is that correct? Yeah, okay. I will drop a link in the chat to the YouTube channel, but they will be available on the Public Counsel website and also the websites of any of the partners within the collaborative.
Let me add one thing. In addition to my answer about what if the contractor abandons you and how to file a complaint, there's a link on the Contractor State License Board website. It says file complaint. It gives you all the directions, instructions on how to do that. So it's not hard.
Right, next question is, does the financing always need to be paired with the contractor salesperson?
Well, no. No, lots of homeowners go to their credit union or their bank and get their own financing. But there is an incentive for contractors who are partnering with certain financing companies to sell the financing from that financing company. And that's where, unfortunately, that causes a lot of misrepresentations, and it often causes the contractor to push that financing on you when you could just go to your bank and your credit union and get your own loan.
And I would suggest, just like the recommendation that you try and get 3 quotes for your contractor, you also want to look around for the cheapest financing, because you can end up paying an extraordinary amount of fees and interest on some of the loans sold by home improvement contractors. And you can get a much better deal often with your own bank or credit union. So the next question we have is, when looking for contractors to get other estimates, do we look at the website? And I think this is where the rubber meets the road, is actually getting contractors to give you quotes. Generally speaking, you can't look at a website of the contractor and figure that out. You need an actual quote, and that can be something that's difficult to get. Do you have anything to add there, Audrey?
Right. I mean, yes, that is difficult. And that's why I said maybe talk to friends and neighbors who have had the same problem. Ask them who they used.
Or who they're using. And we know there's going to be a lot of delays. We were already in a market where we had a lack of good contractors. And we're now in a market where we're likely to be flooded with contractors from outside who people haven't had work done by. So it might be difficult to assess how good they're going to be. My advice is, however much you feel an imperative to move quickly, do whatever you can to take your time, because there's a lot of money potentially on the line here.
We've got a chat question.
We have, and then we've got another one in the Q&A. So if an elderly person received the 3-day right to cancel, but not a 5-day right to cancel, can they still exercise that right to cancel? Audrey, do you want to take that one?
Yeah. I'm just waiting. Yes, the answer is yes. So this is in a situation in which you are sold, or you are solicited for a home improvement contract at your home or over the phone. In that situation, if you are not, and you are 65 or over, and you're not given your 5-day right to cancel. You're not told about it verbally, or it's not given to you in writing. Yes, you can exercise that right to cancel at any time until the contractor fixes the situation. So yes, you do have time and you can still exercise that right to cancel. This is in the situation, however, that I'm telling you, this is no, actually, I think that if they don't give you a 5-day right to cancel, you can exercise it at any time. It doesn't have to be a home solicitation because that's part of the Business and Professions Code.
Okay, our next question is, do I need to pay for an estimate to be conducted since they're coming out to my house?
That depends.
You want to say any more on that, Audrey?
Well, actually, I mean, it depends on the contractor. And some will charge you and some won't. So I can't give you a firm answer on that.
And I guess what I would say is, just because a contractor is going to charge you for an estimate, that in itself, I don't think is necessarily a red flag, because their time is worth something and it does take time often to assess what needs to be done. But I would really, really try and get references for those contractors and really look into them as much as you can. Next question is, do I ever need to involve my insurance company or a lawyer during this process? And I think that will probably depend on what your insurance policy says, or it may depend on that. But Audrey, do you have anything in particular?
Right. I don't have a good answer for that, because if your insurance policy allows your insurance company to vet or have any input in selecting the contractor that's going to repair your home, it's really going to depend on your insurance policy and what it says.
And it can depend. Sometimes the insurance people will send somebody out and will get a price from a contractor the insurance company has chosen. But sometimes the insurance company will say, okay, this contractor says it will cost X amount. You can choose to go with this contractor, or you can take the money and go with a different contractor. But it all depends on what it says in the insurance policy. I do have one hand up from GF student. So you can unmute if you have a question. I think you also posted a question, so we may have answered it. Okay, I think we must have answered that question. So thanks once again to Audrey.
Thanks, it was a pleasure.
And thanks also, oh, we've got another question. We keep thinking we're going to finish, but we have another question. If an insurance company chooses a contractor that messes up the work, would the problem be between me and my insurance company? Good question.
Oh, wait. Well, you see, you have to go to the contracts. Was there a contract between you and the bad contractor? Okay, so that controls, if it's between you and the bad contractor, then that's the first issue you're in charge right there. Yes, you can also, you have a policy with your insurance company, and that's another issue which you'll have to deal with. So you have it. What I'm saying is I always look at the contracts and see who's obligated to who. Contractor is obligated to you, and they contracted with you, then you may have to take action directly against that contractor. However, contract with insurance company, allowing them to select contractor, and they select a bad one, then you may have a right to take an action with your insurance company about selecting a bad contractor. So that's my suggestion, but I don't know the specifics and I can't give any legal advice as to the actual situation.
I think that's right. And I think it might be that you're in a situation where you have an action against both the contractor and the insurance company. Because even if the insurance company is the one with the contract with the contractor, that is supposedly for your benefit. But you would have to consult with a lawyer on the specific circumstances. Okay, I'm going to wait 1 minute before I say my goodbyes to see if we have more questions. I'm going to ask GF student attendee again, if you want to ask your question, that you still have your hand raised. Okay, we're going to wrap it up now. Thank you everyone for coming. If you have any feedback for us about this presentation, you can send it to guidetti@publiccounsel.org. That is, and I've put it in the chat, publiccounsel.org. Thank you so much, folks. Thank you, Audrey. Good evening.
Thanks.